Hey there folks, Rel here, and welcome to PlanetSide 2 Basic Training. Today we're going to be going over exactly how to capture a base. Territorial warfare in PlanetSide 2 is the big overarching theme of the game, and sometimes it can be a little bit confusing. So we'll start with the most fundamental part of base capture, and then start layering on some of the more complex mechanics involved. At the most basic level, base capture in PlanetSide 2 revolves around owning control consoles. Standing near these points will force the console to change hands from the enemies to yours. When you've successfully captured a control point, it'll show up in your faction's color. Sometimes the points themselves can be a hotbed for conflict, so if both enemies and allies are trying to secure a console, then that console will gain or lose influence based on who has the majority of forces nearby. It's also worth noting that you can't capture a control point while in a vehicle or a max unit. You also can't capture a control point or any of these sub-objectives if you don't have an uncontested lattice link, but we'll talk about that later. Each base has at least one control point, but some bases have more than that. When your faction owns the majority of control points, control of the base will start to change hands. You can see how long until a base is captured or defended by looking at the timer on the left-hand side of your screen. If you're on the map view, you can see how close a base is to being captured by hovering your mouse over that base and looking at the information box on the right-hand side of your screen. So that's the most basic level. You stand on control points, you capture the base. But depending on the base's setup, there are some sub-objectives that can make that a little bit more difficult to achieve. In the larger bases, there can be a few different kinds of generators, each of which control a specific layer of defense. Vehicle shield generators control the vehicle shields. Infantry can walk through and fire non-explosive weapons through these types of shields, but enemy vehicles can't break through without special equipment. When assaulting a base, these shields are usually the first you want to take down, and they're marked by a tank inside of a shield on your minimap. Secondly, hardened shield generators control the infantry shields. Allied vehicles and infantry may pass through these, but enemies cannot, and neither side can fire their weapons through them. These hardened shields may be controlled by multiple generators. In an amp station, for example, you have two of these shield generators. One is marked by vertical bars, and the other is marked by horizontal bars on your minimap. Both of these generators must be out of commission at the same time in order to drop the shields. If even one of them is repaired, then the shields will come back online. Speaking of which, in order to destroy a generator, it needs to be overloaded. Any non-max infantry class can overload a generator. To do that, you just look at it, and then you press and hold the E key. After a short while, that generator will start a countdown until it overloads. During this time, it needs to be defended. Defenders can stop a generator from overloading by going through the same process, looking at it and pressing the E key. If an overload is halted, the countdown timer is immediately reset, and the attackers will need to start it back up again. When a generator is successfully overloaded, it will be destroyed, and a destroyed generator will need to be repaired by an engineer's repair tool in order to get it back online. In addition to those two types of generators, certain bases have access to a spawn control unit, or SCU for short. An SCU allows defenders to spawn into that base, and also powers the spawn room shields. If you can take down an enemy's SCU, you'll crush their ability to defend. The spawn control unit is also defended by a shield that can only be passed through by defending infantry. In a biolab, there's a special generator that powers this shield, but for most bases, the shield will drop once the base is at least 50% controlled by the attacking faction. You can tell whether the shield is active or not by the text above the capture bar. If the SCU says secure, then the shield is up. But if the SCU says vulnerable, then the shield is down. A vulnerable state means that you can overload the SCU in the same way that you would any other generator. You can find the SCU thanks to a triangular icon on your minimap. So hopefully you're still with me so far. Overload the generators, capture the control points, and then conquer the base. The last part of base capture comes from the top down. If you open up your map with the M key, you'll notice that lines connect each territory. These lattice links represent which bases are available to attack and defend. In order to attack an enemy base, you must have an uncontested territory or hex owned by your faction, linking it to an enemy's hex. This is represented by a yellow lattice link, and it's something that you'll usually hear referred to as adjacency. If you don't have adjacency, you can still mess around inside of an enemy base, but you won't be able to flip capture points or destroy generators. If the map is a little bit too confusing for you right now, you can always follow your current mission, which is displayed above your minimap. It'll point you in the right direction, and it'll get you conquering your next base in PlanetSide 2. If this video has been interesting, helpful, or entertaining, please feel free to like, subscribe, tell your friends about the channel, and if you have any questions or helpful advice that you'd like to offer to newer players about how to capture a base, be sure to leave those thoughts in the comments section down below. Thanks very much, folks. Rel signing off.